Hello, welcome to Animal Audit Corner. Today, I am going to talk about this fabulous crossover show that crossover conversation, anyways, that Aaron Smith Levin was his show growing up in Scientology and had a crossover conversation with growing up in Scientology. Aaron had a crossover conversation to growing up in polygram with Sam and Melissa. What are their last names? Jeez, I really don't know. Had insights on control groups that they were in, since both are about cults, but are different just slightly from one another, just a little bit. One show would be about Scientology and the other would be about polygram. Since both shows are known for being YouTube, those two programs would be the opposite of one another, but still in a family that has four mothers and third in his household while growing up. Makes Celine Dion's family look like a tiny little crowd, and she's the youngest of 14, let me tell you. They were part of the LDS Church. That's a polygram group operating by Warren Jeff. He is serving life. Melissa was brought up in a mainstream LDS church in Utah. Here, same have been married for about a decade and have 2 kids of their own. Keep on going for the next billion years, as they would say in Scientology. His twin brother was born to a single mother, His parents was never married. Also, he has a half brother. But unfortunately, he even said it on his show. But he has that one half brother. As far as I know, unless I'm forgetting something. Aaron's mother joined the Church of Scientology when Aaron and his twin brother were 4. Both Sam and Melissa wanted to have someone to ask several questions on their show, and since Aaron was in Scientology, both of them decided to bring Aaron on. This is only part 1. Believe it or not, there's a part 2. Unbelievable. It was most likely talking about Scientology more than talking about polygram. Let me tell you, they wanted to have a little compare and contrast. They wanted to have something so interested on their show, which is nothing wrong with that, because basically that's what they wanted. Now, both Sam and Melissa watched and heard so many rumors about Scientology, and Sam thought it was an interesting, since it's a little bit different. Just it looks like it was just a little bit different, but it's quite similar. But you know what? Those three people really had the chemistry, even though Aaron had a great portion of part one. Now, what is part two like? That's what I'm thinking. Since Scientology comparisons was so captivating when Melissa was telling some of their hello to you, green glass. Okay. Aaron was really so excited about the crossover conversation that he had with Sam and Melissa, who was in Mormonism in the past. But like now, we all know that Scientology has a reputation of being a control group that's just has controversy as Scientology. Warren Jeff was the same way. He had his wives dressed exactly the same and his kids dressed exactly the same. And they were dressed like in 2025, they were dressed like they were in 1800, anywhere between 1799 and 1860, somewhere around that era. With Mormons and former Mormons, along with current Jehovah's Witnesses and former Jehovah's Witnesses, would feel. Well, they were all in agreement. But, okay. But when a certain current Scientologist isn't watching some kind of documentary about another cult like NXIVM feels about another control group, it would still be an exact thing. They're all these control groups. Now, one could be about watching another cult documentary, but they're not allowed to actually watch their own, which I thought when he mentioned it sounded realistic, because they want to keep them there. They should just say it. They wanted to just keep everybody in there, which is the reason why Scientologists aren't allowed to even watch. Would it make sense? Yes. They don't want any of the Scientologists to get up and leave if they compare 2 and 2 together and figure out that they were in some kind an alternate. That's the way I look at it. Just so weird. So, I bet you that would be the reason why that they don't let anyone watch a documentary about the cult that they. But Scientology can watch other contents about other cults and but then that's what they would do. But then Melissa would just think, you know what, if we did that, then they would put 2 and 2 together and think, hey, that's us. So I don't think Warren Jeff had a TV. I did do research on him for my book that's still stuck in my other laptop and I can't get into it. But yeah, it looks like he never even had a television or a radio in his house. It appeared to all three of them agree it's always so easy to watch someone else and criticize them and their group than themselves. It's just easy to criticize other people. That's the way I see it. But then it gets interesting to Sam and Melissa when Aaron told them that a Scientologist signs a billion-year contract. They are not allowed to set their own schedule. They have to go by what Scientology gives them. Then once they sign the contract, they work for Scientology and they would get a room and board and would work for the organization. And these people don't even get paid the minimum wage. They give them under $1, which is not enough. But when you are in the Sea Org, you are only allowed to date other Sea Org members because none of them are allowed to date the high-ranking members. I think every single person knows that, and it would be said in every former Scientology channel because everybody knows it. And David Miscavige is, I think, reeling right now because now, since the internet's around, everybody knows the secret. I think he's just not thinking. He thinks nobody knows the secret, but guess what? Everybody does now since the internet's around. And they're making like nothing's happening, that no one knows about it. But guess what? We do. Everybody knows Scientologists. The point of the Scientologists that are outside and not talking to the former members or the protesters and making like they're not there, but they're telling them what they don't know, that what everybody else knows, which is just plain old, yeah. Why even bother to say? Because guess what? If they knew that, they wouldn't even be there. This is the way I see. Okay. Oh, well, thank you, Green Glass. Get every one of your friends, family, and your acquaintances to watch my show. Got a deal? But when you are okay. Then if you pay for Scientology, you would be called a public Scientologist. They would pay to do Scientology, but they don't work for Scientology. Those two are separate from one another. But then if someone pays Scientologists, they would pay to do courses. Then they get audited and then they do it in an entry level, which is probably one. But it takes practically years to just get up to the top level. Whitney Mills did it. And literally, that poor woman committed suicide. She begged the doctor. What was his name again? Menkoff. David Menkoff. Did I even say it right? Well, she begged him to help her. But and he told her that she had Lyme disease, which doesn't sound accurate since she was mentally tortured, is more like it. She needed a mental health professional, not a medical doctor, even though psychologists did go to medical school. Usually, if someone does an entry level, which is the basic course, it would cost anywhere from $50 to $100, and it would be on how to have a better relationship. I think they don't even know what a better relationship is, because guess what? They treat their members like crap. And then they would have how to do a better business, it's more like a self-help thing than a religion. They only call it the church outside of Scientology. They don't call it a religion while they're in it. And this is according to Aaron himself. Scientology would be more of a self-help improvement. Of course, I already said that. And it would be about salvation. More than salvation. Because forget it. If you're a lower ranking member and don't pay, then you're working for the church. It sounds that way to me when Aaron, all the former Scientologists, when L. Ron Hubbard was alive, he had claimed to be Buddhist or Buddha. But Scientologists won't tell anyone else outside of Scientology that. And he actually believes it. Of course, Aaron should know he was a Scientologist. But L. Ron Hubbard never believed in a supreme God. He even said that he never even claimed to be special. You know what? I I don't believe that. I would think that in some odd case, I think he does. Now, of course, that's what Aaron said and all the other he did on Growing Up in Polygram. This is the show that he was on. He was in the crossover program. They had the deep conversation, and these are all the things that he said. He wanted everyone in Scientology, this is L. Ron Hubbard, to be just like him. No one wants anyone outside of Scientology to even know that. Please, you know what? Whoever wants to be like him, I think are crazy. I mean, that's the way I see it. L. Ron Hubbard was a crazy person. He beat up his wives. Well, I'm aware that he beat up one, and that was Polly. He was married 4 times, but he claimed he was married only twice. But he lies about everything, including the amount of times he was married. And he said his far family, but let's face it, I don't think he was, because he was married and divorced 4 times. So, I don't think so. Hubbard lied his entire life, who believed a lot of he would think that all the way to his grave, and all David Miscavige knows that into today. And he wasn't the one that was supposed to take over. Patton and Broker was supposed to take over. Then nevertheless, Sam and Melissa would say in the same thing that every and yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it does sort of similar, but they have different tactics too. Because guess what? La Cosa Nostra, I did my fact checking. La Cosa Nostra would be similar to the cult, only they operate differently. Because, first of all, you're not allowed to draw attention to yourself. You're not allowed to snitch. You can't squeeze money out of a person. And you can't put your hands on another made man. But you know what? The former Scientologists and protesters are claiming that they're like the La Cosa Nostra. No, they're not. No, they're not. But only difference is, according to Dominic Sacali, they're not using Omerta anymore. That's gone. He thinks that the made men now think it's a different day and age, but guess what? You still can't snitch. Yeah, La Cosa, yeah. Scientology is nothing like La Cosa Nostra, because guess what? They're a snitching environment. And they squeeze money out of members. In La Cosa Nostra, you're not allowed to squeeze any money out of another member. That's the way things go. So, even though, yeah, well, like I said, this came out of, oh, I forgot what show I got it from. I did, yeah, it was Jeff Nadoon from, The Sit Down. So, he has confirmed that they are similar to a cult, since both the cult guru and the mafia boss are seen as gods. But it just stops right there. Now it does seem so funny since La Cosa Nostra is similar, but they just operate so off cult. I mean, do they operate like a cult? It doesn't seem like it to me. But because I dived deep into research and they're nothing like the original cult. Although, yes, I think both the cult guru and the mafia boss are looked upon as gods, but then it stops right there. One would operate differently. Now, in these other cults, they are similar and do some of the same things, but then in conclusion, everything that Aaron said sounded former. This is they really had part 1. This episode they had was part 1 with Aaron Smith Levin. Growing up in Scientology and growing up in Polygram, they had this conversation with Aaron. It's part 1 and part 2, and it looks like I guess they must have had part 1, I guess somewhere today, because this is only part 1. Now, all the way through, it was most likely talking about Scientology more than Mormonism. Now, are they going to talk about part? You know what? I really don't know, because that's all they talk. But then that'll do it for today. Well. Let me show you a clip. And this is the end. Now, hit that like, press subscribe, and I am going to show you the clip. It's the last bit going towards the end.
You have to travel so far to go to church. In the US, that's a maximum of an hour. Like if